Hello YouTubers, welcome back to another video with me, Adam Well Informed. I hope you had a happy new year and a good Christmas. So this video stemmed from a comment that I received from a previous video. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but thank you Candia for asking this question and what the difference is between my Model 3 2021 refresh compared to my old gas car, petrol, diesel car, literally a combustion engine car or fossil fuel car. It's such a good question, and it's one that I looked into for my own research. Interestingly though, this coincides from an article that at Electric published just a few days ago, and it literally states that only 1% of EV drivers would go back to a fossil fuel car. In all fairness, there are pros and cons to each car, but literally as the survey states, if you do have an EV or you are a Tesla owner, you know that you don't want to go back to a fossil fuel car. So I didn't want to record over Christmas, which is why this video has been a little bit delayed, but it actually worked in my favour because it allowed me to have a little experiment with the recent little sprinkle of snowfall that we got. So before we get into it, if you're watching, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button and the notification bell. This just helps me with the YouTube and its algorithm, but more importantly it shows me the love for the channel, and at the moment only 1% of viewers are subscribers, so I know there's a lot more of you out there that are watching it that haven't hit that like button or the subscribe button, so please if you could do that, it will make my day. So let's get into answering Candia's question. There are quite a lot of points to cover, but I've tried to summarize it down to 12 key parts just to make it as relevant as possible to the everyday driver. The first one that I want to cover is the preheating of the car and the car app. So the Tesla Model 3, like an ICE car, does perform better once the battery is warm and at an optimal temperature. Just like a gas car, that has to warm up before it's at its optimal performance. Therefore, on this given day, I walk out my front door to snow, which is a strange occurrence in the UK, especially when I said literally only one video ago that this doesn't usually happen in the UK. But this did allow for a nice little experiment. So in my usual gas car or my petrol car that I did have, I would have to leave the house, go to the car, turn the car engine on, sit in the car to make sure no one nicked the car, wait for it to warm up, and then scrape the windows. But with the Tesla Model 3, I can literally sit at home on the sofa. About 10 minutes before I leave, I can warm the car up from using the Tesla car app, like I'm showing on the screen now, and it will literally heat the whole car up for me, and it will also warm the battery. And I found that between 10 to 15 minutes is the most efficient if you're looking at minus temperatures or 0 degrees Celsius. So that leads me to one of the biggest differences: make sure you warm up your car before you leave, even if it's not snowed. A, allows you to have a warmer cabin, but B, it just allows you to get the most out of the battery and get a greater range just by heating the car up 10 minutes before. If you did that in a gas or a petrol car, obviously it would be more optimum, but you're also burning a lot of fuel in the process because you'd have to wait for it to warm up, because it's got to use excess heat from the engine. Whereas with the Model 3 2021 refresh model, the heat pump has allowed for greater efficiency in the heating area, which I did cover in a previous video, and I'll link that on the screen somewhere if you haven't already seen it. And also a quick point to make out is that if you had a garage, you couldn't leave your car, gas car, running in a garage, because that would just be an absolute toxic environment to walk into if you left it there for 20 minutes or so. Whereas if you had an EV, you could still keep it in your garage and warm it up still if you really wanted to. The next big difference I've got to talk about is the keyless entry, and there are combustion cars I know that do have this ability, but they don't solely use a car app to do it. In the actual video I'm actually recording, I have not touched any buttons, and the car just unlocks as I get near it. One of my biggest concerns that I had about the keyless entry was if I'm in my house, like for example where I park in my drive, my lounge is right next to there. If I was to go to that part of the lounge that was right next to the car, would it unlock? And to answer that question, no, it doesn't unlock the car. You literally have to be next for it to work. Now there have been occasions where I've been next to the car and it's not actually picked me up, but I've only had one of those occasions where I've had something in my hand And even then, if I didn't have something in my hands, I literally just have to click the standby button on my phone and it unlocks. So literally it's in one button away. I have to click my phone to turn it on, and it realizes that I'm there and it unlocks. It becomes such a convenience to just walk up to your car and then walk away from your car and it automatically locks that you just will totally forget and think a car key is totally archaic in 2021. So the third point I've got is not using petrol, gas or diesel, which sounds like the most obvious point, but what I'm trying to make a point of here is that I literally have 3 miles from Tesla to use. So I used a referral link, and that gives me 1,000 free miles to use at any Tesla supercharger. And in hard numbers and facts, that's literally 10% of my annual mileage for free that I've been given. Now, you're not going to get that with a gas car, but thanks to Ashwin, he's also used my own referral link, and he's bagged himself 1,000 free super miles as well, just for using my Tesla referral code. Now, if you are interested in purchasing your own Tesla, you want to use a referral link to get your own 1,000 free miles. You have to use the link in the description that I've used below to get that. Otherwise, if you order it, you can't go back and retrospectively add it on. You have to go through the link to do it. So don't forget it. I'll put it in the description. I'll also get 1,000 free miles as well for you doing that. So because Ashwin used it, I now have 2,003 miles. So now I've got 20% of my annual mileage this year for free. And for me, that's just crazy. You're never going to get that opportunity with a gas car. Even when I am at home and I'm charging, I benefit from a 5p per kilowatt rate, which is just under 7 cents if you're in the US. So I think I can get that to around £10 to £12 a month for a 10k annual mileage if I use solely home charging. And that doesn't even include the free referral miles as well. So the main thing you've got to wrap your heads around is that the whole charging instead of refueling convenience that's portrayed by usual conventional media is extremely negative in my opinion. It's blown out of proportion massively. So in my circumstance, which is I'd classify myself as an everyday user, the electric cars on offer and the Tesla Model 3 is just way more convenient than what you're used to, because you get home, you plug your car in and you literally topping back up to virtually a full tank again. And you don't get that with a gas car. You're literally depleting it, unless you want to go to your local petrol station every week just to top up the fuel. Obviously, you're having to make your trip out of your own way, whereas with an electric car, you go home, you plug it in, it's where you're going anyway. Plus, you get the added benefit of not having to buy any sweets and treats and chocolate and all that other unhealthy based food malarkey that they try to tempt you with, which you definitely do want to give into it. So I'm actually thinking about doing a dedicated video to charging, just because I think I've got a lot more detail to add here. For braking regen, so initially this was my biggest concern. It can also be seen as a one pedal driving style. So it's different because as soon as you take your foot off the gas pedal or the accelerator, you start to stop quite slowly. Well, you stop quite considerably actually, and that's because as you're stopping, the car is actually recuperating some of that energy and placing it back into the battery, which is obviously giving you extra range. But usually you'd get that in a nice car using your brake. Now obviously this car does come with a brake still, and you will still use it, but you'll find out that you actually use it considerably less than you would do in the usual ICE car, which is great news, because if you're not using your brake as much, you're not actually putting much pressure on it. It's not having that wear and tear, but I'll cover that in the next point. A point to make you aware of is that if you do charge to 100%, obviously you won't have any regen space left because there's no space in the battery to take that energy. Also, if the battery is cold, you'll get a limited regen, so you won't get as much regen as you normally would do if the battery was warm. So take note of point 1 and the preheating, because that obviously tackles that issue there. Point 5, so no maintenance. So if you're using the brakes considerably less, as I mentioned before, less wear and tear. Elon himself actually said the brakes should last the lifetime of the car, as it just doesn't see the same level of punishment as a usual ICE car. When you actually get to the maintenance schedule itself, prepare yourself, because there's actually 0 servicing plan required. Literally, they literally set out a list of recommendations just to be covered. So we're talking about rotating your tyres, changing the brake fluid after 2 years, replacing the air filter within a standard 4-year period. So there's not going to be any oil changes, spark plugs, etc. Talking about the engine and a motor, an ICE engine or combustion engine has thousands and thousands of moving parts. Compare that to an electric motor, which has about 20. So that means there's less friction going on, less moving parts, less potential issues, and less wear. So which one do you think is more likely to be sitting in a garage awaiting new parts? Point 6, Sentry Mode dash cam footage. So from the outset, Tesla have multiple cameras installed all over the car, and they're primarily used for the autopilot and full self-driving system that's built into the car. So with the Model 3 2021 refresh model that I have, you have this security function ready from the get-go. There's already a memory stick available, so the dash cam can record footage as soon as you start driving. As soon as you stop, it will then switch over to Sentry Mode, and literally as soon as you leave the car and Sentry Mode is active, it's literally all the cameras around the car are recording. As you can see, we've actually got some Tesla Model 3 admirers from what I'm showing you on my recorded footage, and you will see the headlights flash as well, and that's just saying that, look, I'm starting to capture you in Sentry Mode now, to be a bit of a deterrent. I just think this is great, really, just because we all know how stiff car insurance providers can be when you make a claim, and just to have that footage to hand can save you bags of time and hassle. Point number 7 has got to be the no acceleration lag. So if you're not aware, Tesla Model 3 only has a single gear, and the motor has readily available power from the battery, which in effect gives you a lag-free instant torque experience. So even in my standard range plus, which does 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, you can definitely feel a tug on your neck in a 0 to 60 run. It's so fun and it performs consistently. I won't miss changing gears or feeling bogged down from the ICE engine. Point number 8, a lot of people ask me about engine noise. What's that all about? Do you not hear anything? Do you hear a lot of wind noise? To be honest, I thought it'd be really weird as well, but I don't actually notice there's anything really. You hear a bit of road noise, not overpowering. The radio and the wife or the kids most of the time will fill up any voided noise. In all seriousness, no, it's not an issue. You may hear the heat pump at the start if you're warming your car up, just because it's kicking into gear, but other than that, kick out once it's warmed up a little bit and you will never hear it again. Point number 9, more practical room. It's something that I found in my research. I knew there was going to be more room, but there's no gearbox. So when you have that middle passenger in the middle seat, usually you have to share the legroom with the other 2 backseat passengers. But with the Model 3, you don't have that. There's no transmissions box there. So they literally have their own room for their own feet. It's also good because if you get a child that goes through one door trying to get to the other side, they've not got to step over that anymore. They can literally just shimmy along. You've also got the extra space as well to store things. You've obviously got the frunk, you've got the extra luggage compartment hidden in the boot, which I normally keep the charging cable in there, but if you've got something else in there, you can keep it in there. And there's also a little cubby hold of the left side near the wheel, and I normally keep my milk in there just so it doesn't tip over or anything, which I find really handy, to be honest. Point number 10, no heads-up display. And this was an initial worry of mine because I was thinking, where's my speedo? It's not in front of me. But you get used to it pretty quickly. It's still in your peripheral vision, and it's not just Teslas that have this. I'm pretty sure the Toyota Yaris used to have this as well. It used to be in the middle of the car, so it's not just limited to Teslas. But yeah, like I say, you get used to it pretty quickly. Things are changing with the software updates, so the user interface has changed since I've had the car, and it'll probably change again. But like I say, it won't be an issue once you get used to it. Number 11's got to be entertainment. So this is unrivaled compared to competitors. And on no other ICE car will you get Netflix, YouTube, arcade games, and it's an area that's only going to get better. So there's also rumours of it having Amazon Music and Tidal following in the future. And Elon's mentioned on Twitter that he's pushing for more services and games to be available to align it with their autonomous full self-driving plans. I know you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but they're just mirrored systems. But this operating system will improve consistently, and there's even rumours of a dedicated app store. And just remember how beneficial that was to the smartphone. So you can imagine what it's going to be useful if that does get released. And the final point, and I'm going to be completely honest here, I can't actually back this point up because I've never actually tried it, and that's autopilot. Now, from what I've seen, it's going to be a big change and having the car go in cruise control, but also steering for me on the motorway or highway. The reason why I've not used it is purely because my side repeater camera was not working as soon as I picked the car up. I requested a replacement straight away, and they came around and they've only just fixed it. It is now working, but I haven't actually had the opportunity to use autopilot, so I don't want to actually recommend this part yet as a big change, but I will just mention it because I'm expecting it to be a big change. But I'll try it at some point, and I'll form my own opinion and expectation on that. In addition to the 12 that I've mentioned, there are some other small points that I think I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just think should be covered. First one being tax benefits. So obviously you can get a grant here in the UK to assist buying the car. There's also zero road tax and excise duty in the UK for having a EV. There are similar initiatives in Europe as well as the US, and obviously these will get cut over time and removed once EV enrollment has reached the capacity that they're after. Obviously you don't get any of those tax incentives with a normal combustion car. Here in the UK we get taxed heavily, and when we buy the fuel we get taxed heavily for just driving it on the road via road tax or excise duty, whatever you want to call it. And you definitely don't get a grant to buy a car. So final point is safety. I could go into this all day, but having a Model 3 is much safer than having a combustion car. Mainly the battery, how it's centered in the bottom of the car in the middle, it literally allows it to stick to the floor, so it shouldn't flip over in certain circumstances. And because there's no engine in the front, it's got more of a crumple zone to absorb an impact. But there's many different safety aspects, and I'm not going to cover that right now. It could even have its own video and its own entirety, really. And that's it, really. Don't forget to share, subscribe and like the video for more. It really helps me out. And if you really want to, you can watch this car absolutely annihilate me in chess. I thought I was pretty good at chess, but it turns out the Tesla Model 3 is actually better than me at chess. And thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.